In the first module in this series, we've talked about how neuromuscular conditions cause physiological impairments which restrict the activities of a person. In this module, we're going to discuss the barrier that society places on the independence of people with neuromuscular conditions. By the end of this video, you will understand how you as a PA can use your role to counter the negative impact of society's barriers and support the person you work with in taking part in all aspects of life. Sarah Rennie has spinal muscular atrophy and is a qualified solicitor who now runs a business consultancy.
Well, I've lived with my condition my whole life. I don't know any other way to live. I'm very proud of who I am. I'm proud of my body. And I'm amazed by the things it can do. Weird and wonderful things. I think it's extraordinary and very proud of it. I would say, when I proudly say I'm disabled, very proudly say that, I would say that I'm disabled by barriers. So things like going to a coffee shop and they don't have a ramp, or going for an appointment and the nurse talks to my PA, not to me, or ringing to book a hotel, or no, theatre tickets. And they say, and you can't book them online. And you have to, if you're in a wheelchair, you have to call Monday to Friday between 9 and 4. These are the things that disable me. So my SMA, yes, it's challenging and I have to keep on top of it, and it will develop and it will, get more challenging. But that's not what frustrates me in life. It's those things, it's those barriers.
Claire Perry is a student from Swindon.
When going about my daily life, the social barriers that I meet are usually controlled by the expectations of those around me. So if there's an event that's 5 hours long and has no breaks, then the expectation is placed upon me to be actively engaged and energetic without a break for 5 hours. And I need a drink. I need 10 minutes to think and make some notes. I need to go and get some fresh air because it's probably too hot in there. And these are removable social barriers. Ramps is the most obvious example, but there's a lot of them really. Even just talking to me instead of the person that I'm with is a way of removing a social barrier.
The basis of the social model of disability is that while the physical characteristics of a particular medical condition, such as a neuromuscular condition, cause impairment, it's society's infrastructure, attitudes, assumptions, and format that puts restrictions on the person with the disability. The model's been criticised for being too simplistic, but ultimately it makes the distinction between the two elements, the practical and the societal. Each one contributes to the isolation and exclusion that many disabled people experience, and addressing one without the other cannot overcome the whole problem. We'll look later in this series at practical and medical interventions to relieve the physical effects of neuromuscular conditions. However, first in this module, we'll focus on how you as a PA can work with your employer to overcome the barriers they face because of how our wider community is set up. You have a critical role in promoting your employer's autonomy, inclusion, and independence.
Promoting independence is all about listening and really looking at how that person wants to live their life. So a good example would be, if the person you're supporting is excited about something, don't be really miserable about it. If it's something you're not interested in, just go, oh, that's not for me. Don't list all the horrible things about it that have nothing to do with that person at all. Everyone's got their own preferences.
As a PA, you'll work with your employer to achieve all the things that they do in ways which overcome physical and social obstacles. One of the barriers that people with physical impairments face is that it can take a lot of time to do straightforward routine things. You will learn to anticipate the things that the person you work with needs so that certain regular routines can happen without them telling you every little detail every time. However, these things should always be done with consent. There will also be lots of close teamwork, where you follow instructions based on the choices and decisions that they make in the moment. Kim Kemp has retained her independence and inclusion in society as her muscular dystrophy has progressed.
So I think people get to see you, they get to see what you want, they get to see what you're trying to achieve. So I think when you can feel that they're locked into that, so they get what you're about, they get what you want your week to look like, the month to look like, they get that, things can change, you're not like, on a Tuesday I do this, on a Wednesday, you're not an automaton, you're not a robot.
My PAs are not involved in making decisions for me. They're involved in allowing me to access the means to carry out those decisions. For example, when grocery shopping, quite often we do it on a tablet. My PAs will press all the buttons, but it's my food, it's my choice. It's me that's going to be involved in cooking it, and it's me that will eat it. There are no decisions made for me.
Independence means that the individual is free to make their own decisions, whether others agree with those decisions or not. Ross Hovey works for a major high street bank and has 24-hour PAs who enable him to live independently.
The individual is their decision maker. If someone with a neuromuscular condition wants to smoke, don't give them a round of applause, but equally it's their choice. If they want to eat McDonald's every single night and eat a really calorie-rich diet and put on lots of weight, that's their choice.
Disability of any kind can lead to social segregation and exclusion from mainstream opportunities and activities. Since the 1980s, the social model of disability has been the prominent theory used in the UK to explain how this happens. In other parts of the world, there have been other ways of expressing and framing the issues, such as focus on civil rights, minority groups campaigning. The social model of disability contributed to the Disability Discrimination Act 1995 and then the Equality Act 2010. Since these laws came into force, the infrastructure in the UK has gradually improved to allow better access for disabled people, both physically and in attitude. As a result, there is now far greater access in leisure, retail and community facilities, and also in education and working environments. Ros Quinn-Liven's work means that she has met many people of all walks of life with neuromuscular conditions.
The majority of people with a neuromuscular condition are able to do any job that as long as it's not one that requires lots of physical activity. So from my perspective, they can do anything as long as it's not a physical job. So anything that's desk related, a person with a neuromuscular condition can do that. They can be artists, they can be scientists, they can be doctors. You don't have to be physical to be a doctor. So I think a person with a neuromuscular condition can do anything as long as it's within their capabilities. So I would never, as I said, the only thing you can't do is something that is physically demanding, that requires you to be physical.
When I'm studying, one of the things that removes the largest barriers is that I'm studying from home. Particularly during the pandemic, this has taken away a lot of health risks, but this also means that I can study at my own pace, dependent on my health and the other things that I need to do on a daily or weekly basis. It also means that the materials are accessible to me in every format. I can print them, I can read them on a laptop, I can ask for audio files, I can ask for transcripts of the videos, I can take notes on the laptop, I can ask my PA to make paper notes for me, photograph them into my phone and email them to me. I have as many options as there are technologies that exist to allow for those options, which means I can experiment with new ways of studying depending on what my body needs that day. It's about being able to access the options that are already available So local music venues need to have wheelchair spaces, and then I can go. There needs to be good parking, and food options don't contain dairy. And then we all go and have a good night.
However, there's still a long way to go to make all of society fully inclusive.
I can go to KPMG and the managing partner, a white middle-class male, will treat me completely normally, never met a disabled person in their life. And then I go into A&E for something routine, and the nurse will say, can she move her bowels? And you're like, oh, you should know better.
When people talk to my PAs instead of me, when it's a question about me or my likes or my health, my PAs, they look away or they look to me and wait for me to respond first. They make sure that, they are not actively engaging with the person asking the question more than I am. They are directing them either towards me or away from themselves.
Promoting the independence of a disabled person in society is a real skill, and one that you will develop as you build a strong working relationship with your employer.
I think you're always having to be like a chameleon and do alternative ways of doing the same thing as other people, and the PA really helps me to do that. I always say they run me like a fine clock. I'm like a Rolex watch, the way they run me. They've got me ticking over well, and I think sometimes society sees you, the end product looks great, if you don't mind me saying, not right now, but looks great. And then I think people forget that, no, this isn't my doing. This is the three fabulous women behind me are doing it. But that's the trust, I think, has to be earned and built on both sides. And you only really get that to me with time.
In this module, we've looked at the difference between physical impairments and social barriers, the kinds of social barriers that people with neuromuscular conditions face, and how those barriers can be overcome. We've also learned how the social model of disability has been adopted in the UK, how some other frameworks are used for describing disability in other parts of the world, and the impact that the social model of disability has had on the law and inclusion in the UK. We've discussed the importance of your role as a PA in overcoming social barriers, what independence means, and what you can do to support your employer in their independence.